Fear is not a personality flaw. Fear is a position sizing problem. And until you understand that, you will keep white-knuckling your way through every trade, wondering why you hesitate on entries, close winners too early, and freeze when you should be executing. You think the solution is courage. It is not. The solution is math. One number, applied consistently, that makes fear structurally irrelevant to your trading. That number is 1%. Let me be very direct with you. If you are sitting down at your screen and your heart rate increases when you place a trade, you are risking too much. If you are watching a candle move against you and your palms are sweating, you are risking too much. If you exit a trade before your target because you cannot stomach the drawdown, you are risking too much. Every one of these symptoms, the hesitation, the early exits, the inability to pull the trigger, they are not evidence that you lack discipline. They are evidence that you have made a single trade important enough for your survival brain to hijack your decision making. And the moment your survival brain takes over, you are no longer trading, you are reacting. You are an animal in danger, doing what animals do, fighting, fleeing, or freezing. None of those responses are useful in front of a chart. I have seen it happen thousands of times. A trader with a perfectly sound strategy sits down, takes a position, and within minutes transforms into someone unrecognizable. The analytical mind that built the strategy vanishes. In its place is raw emotion, hope, dread, desperation. And it is not because the trader is weak. It is because the trader has unknowingly crossed a threshold. They have risked enough on this one trade that their brain has reclassified the situation from calculated bet to threat to survival. And once that reclassification happens, no amount of willpower can restore rational thinking. You cannot think your way out of a fear response. You have to prevent the fear response from triggering in the first place. That is what the 1% rule does. And that is what Mark Douglas understood more deeply than almost anyone who has ever written about trading. Now let me describe your trading to you and tell me if this sounds familiar. You find a setup, it meets your criteria, you know you should take it, but you hesitate. You wait for a little more confirmation. By the time you enter, the optimal entry is gone. So you adjust your stop wider to give it room, which means your risk is now larger than planned. The trade goes against you. Your wider stop means a bigger loss. You feel the sting. On the next setup, you hesitate even more. Or worse, you skip it entirely. But then you watch it go to target without you, and now you are angry. So you chase the next move, impulsively, with no plan and no stop. And suddenly you are not a trader anymore. You are a gambler on tilt. Every link in that chain started with one error. Not the hesitation, not the wider stop, not the impulse trade. The error was the position size. You risked enough for the outcome to feel threatening. And once it felt threatening, every decision after that was contaminated by fear. Your brain was not executing a strategy. Your brain was trying to survive. Mark Douglas spent his career teaching traders that the market itself is never the source of psychological pain. The source is always the trader's own beliefs about what might happen and what that would mean. When you risk 1%, you are making a declaration about meaning. You are saying this trade does not mean anything about who I am, whether I am a good trader, whether I will survive. It is one data point in a series of hundreds, and when you genuinely believe that, fear has nothing to attach itself to. It is not that you are suppressing fear. It is that the conditions for fear no longer exist. Now here is the lie you have been carrying, probably without even knowing it. You believe that risking more means earning more. You believe that small risk equals small reward, and that trading with 1% risk is somehow playing it too safe, or not taking trading seriously. Let me destroy that belief right now, because it is the belief that has cost you more money than every bad trade you have ever taken combined. Risk and reward in trading are not a linear relationship. They are a threshold relationship. Below a certain risk level, your brain remains calm, analytical, and capable of executing your plan. Above that level, your brain activates threat response systems that degrade every aspect of your decision making. The return on a calm brain executing a consistent plan over hundreds of trades will annihilate the return on a panicked brain, making erratic decisions with oversized positions. This is not philosophy, this is neuroscience. Think about it like this. Imagine you are standing on a beam. The beam is 1 foot wide and it is sitting on the ground. You can walk across it without thinking. Your balance is perfect. Your steps are confident. Now, take that same beam and put it 30 stories in the air. Same beam, same width, same you. But now you cannot walk across it. You are paralyzed, shaking, crawling. What changed? Not your ability, not the beam. The stakes changed. And the change in stakes hijacked your nervous system and destroyed your performance. Trading is the beam. Risk percentage is the height. At 1%, the beam is on the ground. You can execute with clarity. At 5 or 10%, the beam is 30 stories up, and you are crawling, shaking, making decisions from a place of terror instead of competence. So let me give you the method, not the principle, the exact step-by-step method for implementing the 1% rule in a way that transforms your psychology, not just your risk management. The first practice is the pre-trade risk calculation. This is non-negotiable. Before every trade, before you even think about entry, you calculate your position size so that if your stop is hit, you lose exactly 1% of your account. Not approximately. Exactly, if your account is $10,000, you risk $100, period. You work backwards from the stop to the position size. If your stop is 20 pips away, you calculate how many lots result in a $100 loss at 20 pips. If your stop is 50 pips away, you calculate how many lots result in a $100 loss at 50 pips. The stop determines the size. Your conviction does not. Your excitement does not. The quality of the setup does not. 1%. Every time. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking that this is too rigid, that some trades deserve more risk because the probability is higher. But that thought is the trap. Because the moment you start adjusting risk based on perceived probability, you are no longer trading a system. You are trading your feelings about the system. And your feelings are unreliable. They are influenced by the last trade, by your mood, by whether you had a good night's sleep, by 100 factors that have nothing to do with the actual probability of the setup. The 1% rule removes all of that noise. It is a firewall between your emotions and your execution. The second practice is the pre-acceptance ritual. This is the part most traders skip, and it is the part that actually eliminates fear. After calculating your position size, before placing the trade, you do one thing. You pause. You look at the dollar amount you will lose if the stop is hit. And you say to yourself internally or aloud, I am about to risk $100. If I lose this $100, I will feel the nothing. It does not change my account. It does not change my ability to trade tomorrow. It does not change who I am. I accept this loss fully, in advance. Then you take the trade. This takes 10 seconds. And those 10 seconds rewire your entire experience of the trade. Because now, when the trade goes against you, there is no shock. There is no betrayal. There is no emergency. The loss was already accepted. It already happened in your mind. The market hitting your stop is just the external world catching up to an internal reality you already processed. And when loss is pre-processed, it carries no emotional charge. None. Let me give you a worked example. Your account is $15,000. 1% is $150. You identify a trade with a stop loss 40 pips from your entry. You calculate that you need a position size of 0.375 lots for a 40 pip stop to equal $150. You set the position size. You pause. You say, I am risking $150. If this trade loses, I will be at $14,850. I accept that. I am fine with that. This is one trade out of the next 100. You enter. The trade goes against you. Your stop is hit. You lose $150. You open your journal. You write down, followed the rules. Pre-accepted the loss, felt nothing at the stop. Good trade. Then you look for your next setup. No drama, no spiral, no revenge. Just the next data point. That is what trading without fear looks like. It is not exciting. It is not impressive. It is boring. And boring is the goal. The third practice is the conviction firewall. This is the rule that protects the 1% rule from your own ego. Here is what happens without this firewall. You follow the 1% rule for a week, maybe 2. Then you see a setup that looks exceptional. You tell yourself, this one is different. The confluence is perfect. I can risk 2% on this one, just this once. And the moment you make that exception, the 1% rule is dead. Not because 2% will blow your account, but because you have just taught yourself that the rule is negotiable. And a negotiable rule is not a rule, it is a suggestion. And suggestions do not survive contact with emotion. The conviction firewall is simple. You are not allowed to evaluate the quality of a setup for the purposes of adjusting risk. Your risk is fixed at 1% regardless of how good the trade looks. The setup either meets your criteria or it does not. If it meets them, you take it at 1%. If it does not, you skip it. There is no middle ground. There is no this one deserves more. You do not get to have an opinion about how much to risk. That decision was made before the market opened and it is closed. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking this kills your upside. You are thinking the big winners are the ones where you had the most conviction and sized up. But I want you to be honest with yourself. Go look at your actual trading history. Look at the trades where you sized up because you were confident. How many of those actually worked? And of the ones that did not, how much damage did they do? The honest answer for almost every trader is that the oversized conviction trades have cost them more in cumulative losses and psychological damage than they have ever contributed in cumulative gains. The math does not lie. Your ego does. The fourth practice is the 100-trade lens. This is how you train yourself to think the way a casino thinks. A casino does not care about any individual hand of blackjack, not even a little bit. Because the casino understands that its edge expresses itself over thousands of hands and that any individual hand is random noise. The casino does not get excited when a player loses a big hand. It does not panic when a player wins 3 in a row. It simply keeps dealing because it knows the math works, the architecture works, the system works. All it has to do is keep the system running, hand after hand, and the edge will produce its expected value. You need to become the casino. And you become the casino by shifting your unit of evaluation from a single trade to 100 trades. From today forward, you do not evaluate trade by trade. You evaluate in blocks of 100. After 100 trades, you review your results. You look at your win rate, your average win, your average loss, your expectancy. Those numbers tell you whether your system has an edge. Individual trades tell you nothing. Here is a specific exercise. Get a piece of paper, write the numbers 1 through 100. Every time you take a trade that follows your rules at 1% risk, put a check mark next to the next number. Do not evaluate the result. Do not track the profit and loss on this sheet. Just track execution. When you get to 100, review the aggregate. This simple act of tracking will rewire how you think about each trade. Instead of asking, did this trade win? You will start asking, did I move the sample forward? And that shift from outcome focus to process focus is everything. Let me tell you something about that process of tracking yourself over 100 trades. Most traders think they know their patterns. They do not. They remember the big wins and the painful losses, and they construct a narrative from those highlights that is almost always inaccurate. The reality of your trading only becomes visible when you have structured data about your own behavior, not just your entries and exits, but your emotional state, your rule adherence, your impulse decisions. This is precisely the problem that the Speculator's Journal was designed to solve, giving you a way to see the psychological patterns beneath your profit and loss, the ones that actually determine whether your edge gets expressed or destroyed by your behavior. The link is in the description. But whether you use a tool or a piece of paper, the point is the same. You must track yourself with the same rigor you track the market. Because Mark Douglas was right, your results are not a reflection of the market. They are a reflection of you. The fifth practice is the daily fear inventory. This is a 2-minute exercise performed after every trading session. You ask yourself 3 questions. First, did I feel fear at any point during today's session? If yes, when? Second, did that fear change my behavior? Did it cause me to hesitate, exit early, skip a trade, or adjust my plan? Third, if the fear changed my behavior, would I have felt that fear if I had been risking 1%? Most traders will discover that the answer to that third question is almost always no. The fear came from the size, not from the trade. And that discovery is the reinforcement loop that locks in the 1% rule permanently. You stop telling yourself that you need more courage. You start telling yourself that you need less exposure per trade. The solution is not emotional strength. The solution is structural design. Now, let me bring this entire lesson together. You want to trade without fear. Every trader does. But you have been approaching it from the wrong direction. You have been trying to manage fear, suppress it, override it, push through it, and that approach will always fail, because fear is not a thought. It is a physiological state. You cannot argue with your nervous system. You cannot reason with cortisol. You cannot willpower your way past an amygdala that has decided you are in danger. What you can do is redesign the situation so that your amygdala never activates in the first place. And that redesign is absurdly simple. Risk 1%, calculate it precisely, pre-accept the loss verbally. Never adjust the number based on conviction. Evaluate your results over samples of 100, not trade by trade. And track your fear levels daily to confirm that the structure is working. 5 practices, 1%. Every trade, every day. If you commit to this for 6 months, here is what will happen. The hesitation will disappear, because there is nothing to hesitate about when the worst case outcome is trivial. The early exits will disappear, because you are no longer terrified of giving back a small gain. The revenge trading will disappear, because a 1% loss does not trigger the emotional cascade that demands revenge. The impulsive trades will disappear, because you are no longer in the desperate, scarcity-driven state that breeds impulsiveness. What will be left is a calm, focused, consistent trader who executes a plan without drama. That is what Mark Douglas meant when he talked about reaching a state of effortless execution where the right action is not a struggle, because the psychological conditions that make it a struggle have been eliminated, not through discipline, though discipline is part of it, through architecture, through building a structure around your trading that makes the right behavior the only behavior that makes sense. Remember what I told you at the beginning. Fear is not a personality flaw. It is a position sizing problem. Fix the sizing and you fix the fear. Fix the fear and you fix the execution. Fix the execution and the results take care of themselves. Not because you got smarter, not because you got braver, because you finally stopped making every trade feel like life or death. Because you turned trading from a survival challenge into what it always should have been, a boring, systematic, endlessly repeatable process that compounds quietly while everyone else is screaming at their screens. 1%. Every trade, every day. That is the method. That is the freedom. That is where it starts.